Open source comedy, how is your agent doing? Maybe you don't have an AI agent because you don't have a clue. Because maybe at the $382 mark, if that's the high water mark for can you invest time to make money, can you get ROI for $382 before you spend $382? Open source comedy, what's funny about that? What's funny about that is you think token arbitrage is a salad word. Where if you wanted to win, you would just try to win, for example, a voicemail message. It's ringing. It's ringing, ringing. Greg, good morning. Got some key bullet points for you in the time that we have spent apart after the 2-hour, 21-minute conversation. I went ahead and expanded on the notes, including Vercel's book, Node.js Guillermo, because I will be going on live immediately. You and I can join in a live on Friday, the 28th at 8:38 a.m. Tyson Corner, Miami, Florida time. Why? Because I did some research in your treasury operations, $STRC, $STRD, $STRK, $STRF, $MSTR. Gonna need a callback or just join. Booyah! That's closing deals over voicemail. You leave a voicemail message that I just left, and then you text. The level of intimidation that you feel equals the Stanford CS 21-year-olds, BDRs impart, convey, transduce upon CTOs that are prospective clients of strategy. November 5 is day 5, hashtag 26 days of strategy USSL at ACL. Strategy USSL, which is Universal Semantic, spelled SYMANTIC, lay her, universal. Strategy USSL. This is open source comedy. If you do not make $50,000 using the content for this video, that's on you, because this is open sourcing another hashtag, hashtag 21 days of Grokbot at South by Southwest. How's that $50,000? Here's a question. Have you ever read a book and made $50? Because if you can read a book and make $50, you can listen to this book summary from the future. What future is this? That's where I'm telling you, as the quarterback of your life, March is going to be March 1, day 1 of the 180th day that you've wasted. But on March 1, you're not going to waste it, because on March 1, it's going to be hashtag 21 days of Grokbot at South by Southwest. You're welcome. Clip it, which is, who is going to pay $50 million? Who's going to pay $50 million? Did you just say million? It's 1,000 thousands. So it's 50,000 1,000s. And do you see how, like, when you talk about helping 50,000 people make $1,000, it seems like it's so low, right? It seems like it's so low. That's why this is open source comedy. My Asian AI is doing some math crunching because it's worth $50 million. If your company is going to go from $500 million to less than that. Why? Because then you'll be a pure private equity firm and now you're fucked. You're triple fucked because what if Bitcoin is $80,000 per Satoshi and your revenue drops from 500 million to under $100 million? When you have your old model, which is retarded gay people on the phone talking to heterosexual engineers, that's what a BDR model is. It's people who are retarded and gay who love to talk on the phone, gay people, and now you're trying to get a hetero person who thinks rationally with an engineering degree. This is still open source comedy. That's the old model. The customer service rep, the homo retarded person who's doing customer service in Tempe, that's your outbound for BDR. That's not good. The reason that's not good is because I roll my eyes when gay retard says this. You just like to say things to sound right. What? 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 Of course I like to say things where I sound right. Not that I like being right. I try to be right. And are we having a discussion about the fact that you are gay and retarded? These jokes just write themselves, kids. Open source comedy. Problem. Fortune 100 companies are using people that are retarded and gay. This is why you can fire 80% of those people and the revenue is going to double. Okay, the revenue only doubles when you incorporate Larry Chang, but you can hire, you can't, actually you can using AI. You can actually hire a Larry Chang, which is segment number 6. Larry Chang as your CRO, virtually AI. AI, AGI, CRO. These jokes just write themselves. What is AI, AGI, CRO? It's American intelligence, American intelligence, American guy intelligence, American intelligence, chief revenue officer. You just do sales calls as an engineer. And that's the teaser, and I just jizzed in your face with my brain. So the old model is BDR, where your business development representative is trying to book appointments for an AE. Why is your model that way? Oh, that's the way we've always done it. Oh, really? How's that working out? Well, our company makes less than $1 billion a year. What? What? You literally make less than $1 billion as a Fortune 5 company. Think about that. Think about what I'm saying. Think about what you're telling me that I learned, which is, how is your top 5 most valuable company in the world only having $500 million in revenue? Like, how retarded are you guys? How retarded? How retarded? That would be mega retarded. I'm doing a turnaround using Stanford GSB textbook, New Business Ventures and the Entrepreneur, edition number 5. Segment 2. How am I doing this? How am I doing this? This is how I'm doing it. This is how I'm doing it. I'm doing it with a YouTube video where one person's watching you and 2 starfish. Well, technically 4 starfish. Technically 4, but we'll just go with the accounting principle of I only see 3 starfish. So who's watching this video? You are. You're not a starfish. You're watching 4 starfish. But Larry, I only see 6 starfish. Yeah? So this is why you're seeing so many starfish. It's $MSTR. It's $STRK. It's $STRD. It's $STRF. It's $STRC. You see, I want to stretch your brain to ask this question, which is, I don't think I'm overdoing it. I'm just trying to stretch your brain to ask these simple questions. Why does your BDR rep sound like a fucking retard? I don't want to have the fucking retard introduce me to somebody slightly less retarded with a title of account executive. Because they're 0 for 2, you're 0 for 5. BDR. No business, no development, barely a representative of your company. AE, account executive, you're not my account, and you're not an executive. How do you even call yourself an AE when you don't even make $800K at a company that doesn't make $500 mil? Open sourcing the comedy is chief of staff. Why are you using a chief of staff? Did you ever hire a chief of staff? What is even a chief of staff? That's a person who's in the gay mafia, networking with other chiefs of staff, doing their gay mafia shiitake. Maybe get rid of the chief of staff and turn it into segment number 4, chief revenue officer. You see, chief of staff is in the Silicon Valley gay mafia. That's just who rides dick, rides cock, rides CEO, which is the chief of staff. Oh, I get it. It's chief of staff to chief of staff networking. It's a mafia of people that are all chiefs of staff, and then they go do homo stuff in Bohemian Grove, and they get deals done like it's a board of directors. I don't get it. I don't get it because those deals are circle jerks. These jokes just write themselves. Circle jerking, that's related revenue. That's page 433. That's related revenue. That's open source comedy. That's circle jerking. That's day 5, day 13, day 15, day 23, day 81 of hashtag 26 days of Grok 4 ducking BK. Clip it. This is where the money's coming from. It's coming from the future. You see, traveling ahead in time to do sports betting makes you retarded, makes you hetero and retarded. You have a time machine, it's talking to you right now. I'm telling you that segment 5 is hashtag CS major CRO, period. Because chief of staff, that's broken. Chief revenue officer, that's not broken. You get to be chief revenue officer because who cares about internal deliverables, which is what your secretary does, which is picks up your laundry, organizes your meetings, buys stuff for your office. Segment 5, hashtag CS major CRO. Grokbot Cursor, a $50 version. Bot. 21 days of Grokbot at South by Southwest. $283 a month. It's some dollar amount that is significant, but is well below $300. March 1 is 150 days away. Why don't you try to make $300 before you spend $283 a month? This is how. ROI for hashtag 21 days of GrokBot at South by Southwest before March 1 to March 21, which is the hashtag 21 days of GrokBot at South by Southwest. Real support, number 7. Please hold for Larry Chang. The problem with every automated email or bot or agent is it's just AI sludge. We're talking about open source comedy. Nobody wants to interact with your dumb AI. Nobody wants that. I don't want to talk to your chief of staff, which is a robot. And when you trick me into spanking it to my spank bank, you get upset because you're like, I want the real Larry Chang. I don't want to date the AI version of Larry Chang, which is why point number 7 is the real support. Please hodl for Larry Chang. So your AI agent is not a BDR introducing you to an AE, which is retards introducing you to people that are slightly less retarded than you. It's reducing the friction and increasing and engineering the serendipity of getting Larry Chang on the phone, which is real support. Comma quote, please hodl for Larry Chang. Because when you're engineering the serendipity of you're on the phone, I'm on the phone, together we're going to do some amazing shiitake on the phone. That's where I'm leaving you a voicemail message where I'm reading what your next step is. And if you've met me in person and you need me to bark at you to determine, hey, this is your next treasure step map. Fuck yourself in the fucking face because you should be marching and stepping towards your own financial destiny on your own. You should be doing this on your own, but I get it. Some of you haven't met me yet, which is why point number 8 after real support, please hold for Larry Chang, is front end Larry Chang, front end Lawrence Chang, front end Lorenzo Chang. Who are all these people? These people are all AI agents, but they're AI agents that mimic one thing. Does this sound better? Doesn't matter. Which is the front end, which is onboarding. This is why cold open, cold approach is entertaining. This is why cold calling is so hard, which is why the solution is what makes tech sales so hard? The selling and the tech. Intimidate. Date a scary Larry Lawrence. Do I intimidate you? Because your BDRs should be so smart that they intimidate a CTO. Will you be leaving voicemail messages? Will you be crescendoing information that forces people to need to pay attention because you're spitting things that are truthful? You just like to sound right. You just like to say things where you sound right. My argument with a retarded gay person. What? Why don't you stop saying things that are gay and retarded? That's a valid question, right? Because as the leader of the LGBTQ TT community, I advocate if you are going to be gay, act gay, don't also be massively wrong. Because accountability, that's what's lacking inside of LGBTQ TT plus. is accountability. Once you add in accountability, the LGBTQ TT community run by Larry Chang will be unstoppable. Don't you want to be unstoppable? Slay Queen should be shit talk, not trash talk. Not should be incorrect talk. Because my trash talk, my shit talk is Korean cowboy, Oriental cowboy, specifically, more accurately, the Confucian cowboy. Confucian and confusion. That makes me dumber than you and smarter than you, the Confucian cowboy, which is levels to cowboy, which is why a Chinese heterosexual running the LGBT community turns around a shit franchise called LGBTQ. Why? Because right now there's strife and internal civil war within the LG and the T, because there's a dude named Enes Kanter who's going to be playing in the WNBA. It's going to be a disaster, which is why the Larry Chang and Dave Chappelle joke, all this LGBTQ TT plus movement needed was a man at the top. Dave Chappelle, Larry Chang, open source comedy. What if you clipping these comedic segments made more money than you made last year? What if you repurposed this video to make enough money to pay $283 a month, so that way you can hire CS Major CRO for $28,300 per month. So all we're doing is just moving the decimal point, which is why strategy is in danger. Strategy, you're in danger, buddy, because you can't have a company worth $8 trillion, which is where it's going, simultaneously having revenue below $500 million. You can't do it that way. I got a question for you. Why do your BDRs sound retarded and gay? Why? Oh, but that's just how it works, Larry. What? What? So you're going to have idiots calling CTOs to book appointments for AEs? How does that even fucking work? Oh, but Larry, you're overqualified to be a BDR. I'm actually retarded, and I've been rich since sophomore year in college. So amount of time that you've been rich makes you completely mentally checked out. I should be the low bar of BDRs, which is BDR. Why are your BDRs not all computer science majors from at least Princeton, at least some tier 3 Ivy school, at least? CS major, and then you get them to do sales. That's the definition of tech sales. When you try to remove the tech from tech sales, you're going to get revenue south of $1 billion. What is wrong with you guys? What is wrong with you guys? That's a question. What is wrong with you guys? Chime in, tell me your name. Or I'm watching incognito because I like to stalk Larry Chang So fun. Interact. I know it's intimidating, isn't it? Hey, once you own the fact that I'm intimidating, you're going to springboard past me. Slingshot engage. Slingshot engage. Later, you're going to springboard by me, but you can't do that unless you initially are intimidated. That's just the dynamics of the mentee to mentor relationship. Oh, but Larry, Peter Thiel wasn't intimidated. Oh, Peter's intimidated still, and I mentored him. That's not what you want to have happen, because then you make the money and you're like, I could be as gay and as retarded as I need to be. No, no. Because then you're going to come up with a 3-lecture series on the Antichrist, and you're going to sound like an asshole. True story, he has a 3-part lecture series on the Antichrist. Peter Thiel, if you're any good, you would try to woo me to the dark side. Are you not going to woo me? Or do I love Jesus too much? Follow the Lord. Thank you for my brain. Thank you for me transferring money via a YouTube called Open Source Comedy. Father Lord, thank you for my big brain solving Silicon Valley gay mafia's problem. Father Lord, thank you for Chief of Staff, because the old way was Chief of Staff doing gay networking to other Chiefs of Staff. Therefore, my Chief of Staff is very valuable because they're plugged in, they're inserted, they're circle jerking into the Silicon Valley gay mafia. But Lord, we don't want to realize that Jesus Christ left off one line of code in the Bible, but what can we do? The Bible is the Bible. It is not to be updated, which is avoiding and ducking being gay and retarded. Yes, which is an AI agent called CS Major CRO using Chad Hurley and Steve Chen's website. Father Lord, thank you for YouTube. Thank you for this time of fellowship, where you promise that when 2 or more are gathered in Jesus Christ's name, when 2 or more are gathered in your name, that you will always appear. Best deal ever. Thank you for that blessing. Also, Lord, thank you for that athletic talent. Can I have a little more athletic talent? I realize I should be practicing my athletic talent, but I kind of want to just be blessed with the athletic talent that I don't earn nor deserve, kind of like me being blessed by you dying on the cross. And the blessing of you only batting 500. Lord, did I tell you I'm batting 1,000 when it comes to blonde billionaires? I know. Thank you. Thank you for only batting 500. Larry Chang, greater than Jesus Christ batting average. Batting average. Jesus, thank you for only batting 500. And also, speaking of batting 500, can you go find Augie Garrido? It's me, Larry Chang. Do I have your consent? I don't need it. To star as Augie Garrido in the biopic called Inning by Inning, Winning by Winning? Or is it just me playing Augie Garrido, and then the sequel is me playing Larry Chang, who is Augie Garrido's mentee? Inning by Inning, Augie Garrido. Winning by Winning is Larry Chang reprising the role of Larry Chang. You like that? I love it. Oh, thank you for planning. Thank you for Open Source Comedy. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Let's go. Should we do some more cold calls? I kind of want to cold call some people. Do you like how Open Source Comedy is mapping out my Grokbot chief revenue officer named Lawrence, the chief revenue officer. Lawrence sounds intimidating as fuck. Lawrence sounds like he's better at basketball than you. He's better at computer science. Lawrence, he sounds like he's better at baseball, and he didn't even play high school baseball. Lawrence, sounds like he just showed up at computer science class at Jerry's School of Computer Science. Jerry at cs.stanford.edu and just started TAing shit. That's what Lawrence sounds like. And then you're like, did Lawrence start WASES, which is BASES, Business Accelerator Stanford Engineer Society, BASES, whereas he started LACES and WASES and ACES and DACES and FACES. What's FACES? It's Friends Accelerated Stanford Engineering Society, FACES. Get it? You don't get it. You change one letter and you make a new franchise at Stanford. It feels like you're meeting EIR Larry Chang for the first time. Open sourcing comedy, open sourcing reverse VC, helping Stanford undergrads make their first $5,000. I was going to say $50 million, but that would be 2 DoorDash gifting suite. Good luck trying to sue me. Good luck trying to sue me for using the name the DoorDash gifting suite. You can try to sue me, but then you would need to hire 3 dudes: Carl Opedal, Mark McCormack, Larry Lessig, and Larry Chang to defeat Larry Chang for trademark utilization, tiptoeing the line to trademark infringement, but totally legal. This is actually legal advice, which is you want to hire me if you're going to try to beat me, because Carl Opedal, Mark McCormack, Larry Lessig form my sextumvirate. Wait a minute. That's only 4. What's the sextumvirate? It just sounds funny. It just sounds funny. Sextumvirate, which is sextuple entendre, hashtag sextuple entendre. Because when we go before the Supreme Court for this trademark case, you're going to fucking lose, because the Tom Brady reference on Yahoo, sports journalists are allowed to do it. Ditto Linsanity, there's a thing called prior art. The DoorDash gifting suite, I'm allowed to get a suite where I gift you some Uber Eats. You might want to just throw me in a God account. What's a God account? It's where I can order unlimited DoorDash and then you pay for it. Because guess what happens after you give me the God account? I'm probably going to just not take it. Ditto the Uber God account. What, do I want you to trace who bangs me and when I leave? Hello? Real support, please hold for Larry Chang. Front end Larry Chang. Number 9, intimidate. Date a scary Lawrence. Problem. No one's been able to scale a distribution robot. That's a problem. It's a $1 billion problem. Hashtag CS183D is. Speaking of a $1 billion problem and trying to help students at college solve a $1 billion problem is Paul Graham, who has escaped to the UK. I see him back in America, lickety split. Lickety split. Here it is. Paul Graham, 8/24/26, 8:01 p.m. How universities should prepare founders. www.paulgraham.com/prepare. Kind of like www.paulgraham/ds.htm, which is do things that don't scale. How should universities prepare students to start startups? Y Combinator is in the perfect position to answer this question because we get them next. We're like grad school, and because YC has 20 years to refine its model of what is promising founder looks like, you probably won't find a better target. Ooh, strong words, Paul Graham. He knows Larry Chang. Continuing. What do the YC partners look for? It's surprisingly simple. They want people who are good at building things and have a habit of doing it. The hard part of startups is product. Ooh, really? Knowing what to build and being able to build it. And that kind of knowledge comes from studying computer science or mechanical engineering or molecular biology, not management or finance. Paul Graham, you're a genius. So, the way to prepare undergraduates to become successful founders is to not give them some new curriculum focused on entrepreneurship. It is to do what universities already do best, to teach them computer science and mechanical engineering and molecular biology. Paul Graham working in the comedy of triples. Indeed. Preparing students to start startups is closer to ideal liberal education than preparing them for almost any other kind of career. Period. Startups succeed or fail based on how much customers like the product. Customers don't care about the founders studied in college, so the founders are free to study whatever they want as long as they're good at building things. But building should be understood in a very broad sense. It doesn't mean all would-be founders have to study some form of engineering. Almost any kind of expertise that could be described as building or creating could be useful. It would be useful if Steve Jobs studied calligraphy, for example. It was one of the reasons Apple dominated desktop publishing. So while math and science and engineering and design tend to be good bets, I would not want to draw a sharp line around them because I can imagine other forms of building that could be useful. And of course, you don't have to major in something to be good at it. Mark Zuckerberg was good at programming, but he was a psych major, not a CS major. That was an atrocious paragraph. The best way to describe what would-be founders study would be to seek out powerful ideas. But smart people are naturally attracted to powerful ideas anyway. So as long as departments teaching powerful ideas exist, the sort of people who'd make good founders will find them. In fact, there are only two things universities need to change to be perfect at preparing founders. They need to make students feel like starting a startup is something they can do, and they need to encourage them to work on their own projects. At the moment, the belief is that it's possible to start a startup very unevenly distributed. YC now gets so many applications that our application data is a reasonable proxy for interest in startups at different universities. And Harvard alumni, for example, apply about twice the rate of Yale and Princeton alumni. Presumably, Harvard students aren't that different from Yale and Princeton students. The reason Harvard students can go on to start more startups is just that it's more customary there, which in turn implies that merely by making their students feel that starting a startup is a viable option, Yale and Princeton could at least double the number who do. New paragraph. Once a university has a culture of starting startups, you don't have to convince students that it's a viable option. New students learn that from older ones. But at a university that doesn't have much of a startup culture there are things you can do to help this realization along. The most effective is probably to show some students example of people who have done it. Stanford and Larry Chang and YC, the three institutions of Silicon Valley, which is what this channel is. Until you've seen some founders in real life, you tend to think that starting startups is something done by other people. Seeing them pops that bubble. In fact, seeing founders in real time, real life, is doubly inspiring. They seem impressive, but they also seem human, especially when they talk about the early years, even when they are clueless or have made lots of mistakes. So strangely enough, seeing founders in real life makes being one seem simultaneously both desirable and accessible. It makes students think, I want to do that, and I could. How inspiring founders are to function is a function of roughly how rich and famous they are divided by how much older they are than the students. So it's not essential to bring famous billionaires to campus. Founders in their mid-20s who are 3 years into a startup with a valuation of a couple $100 million will do well. They may also be a 12th, 20th as rich and famous, but they're 20 times easier for students to identify with. It is obvious why universities that want students to start startups need to make them believe it's a viable option. But why is it so important for founders? Why is it so important for students to work on their own projects? There are 4 reasons. The first is that simply it's a great way, possibly the best way, to understand a subject really deeply. The excitement of creating something new is a much more powerful motivator than the fear of doing badly on an exam. Second, working on projects together is the best way for co-founders to discover one another. The most successful startups tend to have multiple founders, and the only way to tell for sure if somebody will be good to work with is to work with them. Apple and Microsoft were just the last of many projects their founders had worked on together. Third, a startup is a project, so starting one will feel natural to someone who's used to working on projects on their own. It won't seem weird that there's no teacher or boss telling them what to do. They're used to telling themselves. Fourth, this is basic shit to me, but it needs to be said. And PG, Paul Graham, he's dumber than me and he's smarter than me at the same time. Fourth, and most surprisingly, random side projects are where the best startup ideas come from. The best startup ideas tend to seem so implausible at first that anyone conscientiously looking for startup ideas would reject them. Who'd expect to start a huge company based on creating student directory? So the best way to discover the best startup ideas is to look for the startup ideas, but just to work on whatever random projects seem interesting. Because in fact, such projects are far from random. Young people who are good at building things are technological bellwethers, so any idea that seems interesting to them is disproportionately likely to lead somewhere valuable, even if they themselves don't realize it yet. Now, it should be clear why the YC partners care a lot about the projects that applicants have worked for, or not at all about their GPAs. Projects are the best source of knowledge, the best source of founding teams, the best source of startup ideas. But encouraging students to work on their own projects may be difficult for universities. It will mean giving the students more free time and universities may not like that. Microsoft and Meta have something in common that few people realize. They both started during resting period at Harvard. Reading period is the gap between the end of classes and the beginning of final exams. It's called reading period because the students are supposed to spend it preparing for exams. But reading period also turns out to have a unique combination of qualities that make it perfect for starting new projects. The students are all on campus and they don't have anything to do the next day. The latter constant, the latter constraint especially, is a huge drag on most ambitious students. Merely eliminating it for a few weeks resulted in $2 trillion companies. Imagine what the US GDP would be if reading period at Harvard were twice as long. Facial expressions redacted. Universities will tend to resist the idea of keeping students less busy with coursework, partly because alternatives for that if they want to achieve something. They have to do it by taking active measures. Achieving something merely requires students leaving it alone in their nature. When did TLDR become too long, don't read? When did you begin to think too complicated, don't make that money? Because that's not, it's not too long, don't read, because it's long enough to read. It's also not too complicated to make the money. It's called making money. It got competitive, making money. It got competitive, and some of you guys just gave up. Too perfect, do execute. Fourth, and perhaps most surprisingly, random side projects are where the best startup ideas come from. The best startup ideas tend to seem to be implausible at first, that anyone consciously looking for startup ideas would reject them. Who'd expect to start a huge company by creating a student directory? So, the way to discover the best startup ideas is not to ask for startup ideas, but just to work on whatever random projects seem interesting. Because in fact, such projects are far from random. Young people who are good at building things are technological bellwethers. So any idea that seems interesting to them is disproportionately likely to lead to something somewhere valuable, even if they themselves don't realize it yet. Now, it should be clear why the YC partners care a lot about the projects that applicants have worked on and not at all about their GPAs. Projects are the best source of knowledge, the best source of founding teams, and the best source of startup ideas. But encouraging students to work on their own projects may be difficult for universities. It will mean giving the students more free time, and universities may not like it. Microsoft and Meta have something in common that few people realize. They both got started during reading period at Harvard, Larry Chang's safety school. Reading period is the gap between the end of classes and the beginning of final exams. It's called reading period because students are supposed to spend it preparing for exams. But reading period also turns out to have unique combination of qualities that make it perfect, unique combination of qualities perfect for starting new projects. The students are all on campus and they don't have anything due the next day. The latter constraint especially is a huge drag on the most ambitious students. Merely eliminating for a free weeks resulted in $2 trillion companies. Imagine what the US GDP would be if reading period at Harvard were twice as long. Correlation, causation much? What if University of Illinois were to have a reading period longer than 1 day? That would be the University of Illinois being greater than Harvard by 11x. Universities will tend to resist the idea of keeping students less busy with coursework, partly because administrators feel like they want to achieve something, they have to do it by taking active measures. Achieving something merely by leaving students alone is alien to their nature, and they should be left alone. These things should be the students' own projects. The university should resist the temptation to make them official, partly because students will be more excited to work on a project that's entirely their own, and partly because projects wouldn't survive official recognition because they break some sort of rule. Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg both got in trouble with Harvard administration over projects they worked on as undergrads. Bill broke university rules by bringing Paul Allen, who wasn't a student, into the computer lab to work with him on Altair Basic. Zuck got into trouble over FaceMash because he was put on disciplinary probation, and their cases are probably more the rule than the exception. Universities have lots of rules, and novel projects are often untidy things. Right now, there are students flying drones out of line of sight. Turn a blind eye to it. Another reason it will be hard for universities to keep students less busy is that they'll worry that without some kind of oversight, most students will just waste whatever free time they're given, and the price of giving the most energetic students room to even better is that it leaves the energetic students room to do even worse. Sick, SIC. But that's a price that's worth paying because the most energetic students do better, they could do a lot better. Whereas the laziest students already learn so little that there's not much room for them to do worse. So giving the students some of their time back would improve the average outcome a lot, even if it doesn't move the median. I'm not going to say that you need a proofreader because this essay is better shipped versus perfected. It may seem a bit excessive to change the whole schedule of the university just to encourage would-be founders. They're never going to be more than 10% of the students, and it probably will be excessive if this change only helped founders. But in fact, giving the students some of their time back would help the most energetic and ambitious ones. They'd all explore new things of one type or another if the pressure of work were relieved for even a week or two. Continuing on, Paul Graham with his essay, which Larry Chang subtweeted. So, super similar to the development of Kobe Bryant versus his competitors, you're doing TLDR where you're so slow to do. And when you're so slow to do, you're going to fall behind. And when you're falling behind, that's not good. But you're not falling behind because you get me. You get me. We're getting something together, which is why is it only the rich people who are cool, tall, and hot hang out together? Why is that? Now that I explained how universities should prepare founders, I should explain how not to. One thing universities can't do is actually teach students how to start startups. Starting a startup is one of those things. What? Like chemistry or painting that you have to learn by doing, which means a properly run class on how to start a startup would have to be a lab class. The students would actually have to start startups. And I know exactly what a class of this type should look like because YC it is. But YC is very different in structure from a university. And if you tried to cram it into an undergrad degree program, it would become a joke. Are the students supposed to start these companies without any funding? Are they supposed to run startups, which notoriously take every moment of your time when done properly, while simultaneously taking 2, 3, or 4 other classes? And what if, despite these handicaps, some of the startups actually take off? Are the students supposed to just abandon them? Because it's either that or drop out. Running a startup is incompatible with being a full-time student. The only way to learn how to start a startup is to do it. These two statements are so obvious that they're practically truisms. And yet, so many people manage to remain in denial about what they imply. You can't teach students how to start startups, says Paul Graham. One common response to this inconvenient truth is to pretend to teach them how to start startups. For example, by organizing a business plan competition, these students collaborate, come up with startup ideas, which they then pitch to simulated investors. This kind of exercise is not merely useless, but positively misleading. It trains founders to think that fundraising is the essential step in starting a startup. That the core to starting a startup is to create a story that appeals to investors. As an investor, I can tell you that's not true. Fundraising is merely a necessary evil. The people you need to impress are users, not investors. And the way you impress them is with prototypes, not words. The core of starting a startup is not creating a story that appeals to investors, but creating a product that appeals to users. True story, Paul Graham, true story. In fact, would-be founders should be doing exactly the opposite of what students in business plan competitions, instead of thinking about startups without building anything. They should be building things without thinking about whether they'll turn them into startups. Probably one of the reasons universities are tempted to organize bogus things like business plan competitions is that they actually look like the optimal measures to prepare students to start startups. It would look too quiet. Imagine if a university were doing things right. Students would be getting deep knowledge on how to build things in classes, getting a deep knowledge in how to build things in classes they were taking instead of genuine interest and working eagerly with their friends and side projects that had nothing to do with school. The students would graduate with exactly what predicts success in founders: the ability to build things and a habit of doing it. Plus, a significant number of those side projects would be incipient startups, and yet it would look like parents and prospective students as if the university wasn't doing anything. What are the classes on entrepreneurship? Where is the innovation center? And indeed, this is yet another great thing about the optimal plan to preparing startup founders. It costs nothing extra. You don't have to hire deans of entrepreneurship or build any new buildings. In fact, you do these things will tend to drag you down. There's no need for them. So if they have any effect at all, it will tend to be for the worse. If you have any spare money, give it to the people teaching computer science or mechanical engineering or molecular biology. But if this optimal route looks too quiet, the solution is not to avoid it. The solution is to stand firm, knowing that you're doing the right thing. Eventually, the results will speak for themselves. If you develop an organic startup culture among your students, and there are multiple students in every year who will go on to start successful ones, this will soon be becoming self-evident to anybody paying attention. Paul Graham does not read Larry Chang. That's just, I'm going to bullet point some things that will help. 1, pop-up internships. 2, why did you not even address practicing distribution and practicing tech sales for stuff that you did not create? Bullet point 5, I know that I know everything that you know. Do you know a little bit of what I know? I'm not seeing you. Doing my own producer work involves me being in front of the camera and me being behind the camera. How's that working? How's that working? It's working great, question mark. Doesn't it feel like it's 3 in the afternoon already? Oh, wait. You didn't wake up butt ass early doing open source comedy. Is this intimidating? Is this intimidating? Because number 10, no one's been able to scale a distribution robot. Comment so that way I can see who's where. Problem number 10. No one's been able to scale a distribution robot. 11. Tit's $1 billion problem. Hashtag CS183D. perfectly on cue for the guest that I cannot add, which is problem. No one's been able to solve the billion-dollar problem of hashtag CS183D. Coupled with your lack of effort, it's going to be a disaster. This is Paul Graham in a nutshell, which is, do you not read any of the things that I ever say? That's cool. Solving another problem called hashtag LABCS 1459. You should be scared that I can memorize the holes in your money. $ MSTR, $STRK, $STRF, $STRD, $STRC, $MSTR. Do you need me to go over those again? Later, Venmo me $5,000. Solving hashtag LABCS 1459. Throughput lines of code per day. What are you throughputting your brain? Or are you having a problem coming up with Vercel, Node.js, Guillermo? Or am I going too fast for you? Number 14, BDR and external API, business development representative. You trying to be CEO, managing me as a BDR is going atrocious because you're hoping that you're going to CTO so well that you don't need a CPO and the CEO will be relegated into irrelevance. This is your doom loop of death, which is BDR. You're going to need to be a BDR to someone else's external API. 15, Stanford Corp Gov. I'm going to bullet point some things. They're going to go over your head. This is what your board of director needs to cram down some other CEO's throat. 1, the Arthur C. Rock Center for Board of Governance. 2, Stanford's annual Board of Director event. Why Stanford? Because Harvard is pretty good, but not as good. Harvard Corp Gov, Stanford Corp Gov, which is number 3, analyzing corporeal minutes. Every time board of directors talk with the CEO, those minutes need to be logged. Those can be analyzed. Hat tip, Larry Chang mentoring Greg Rogers, trying to sell me on a sniffer for board of director meeting minutes. If there's a person who's good at sniffing board of director minutes, that would be Larry Chang with this coaster called Computershare. Called Computershare. It's Computershare. It's Computershare. It's right here on my treasure map for Computershare, which is October 3 to 5, 2025. Computershare, running an external API into Austin City Limits Computershare Conference, where the Computershare Conference of 2024 set the agenda for the Stanford Corp Gov Conference, April 23 to April 25, 5 months prior to Computershare doing it October 3 through October 5, running an external API into Austin City Limits. Some of these things are going to need to be expanded on. I will not talk to you like your IQ is below 400, because I am. What's your AI token problem? What is your AI token problem? Is this throughput lines of code per day? I think it is. I know it is. I'm telling you the future. Just pull your head out of your, you know what? Your head up your ass is actually useful, because you can realize that your butthole, it's broken. I would recommend pulling out 2 thumbs and your penis from out of your own asshole, because what is your AI token problem? Here is the anus joke with the 2 thumbs explained. It's not 2 girls and 1 cup of knowledge. It's 2 thumbs, and your thumb drive is a related transaction. That's day 5, day 13, day 15, day 23, day 81 of hashtag 26 days of Grok 4 at ducking bankruptcy. These are all logged onto my overflow of brain knowledge called X Twitter, which is hashtag 26 days of Grok 4 ducking BK connects to 2027's hashtag 21 days of GrokBot at South by Southwest. Similar to how Computershare had a October 3rd through October 5th Board of Directors conference, Stanford University, April 23 to April 25, 2025, ripped my syllabus line by line and then blocked me. Do you not know how blocking works? Do you not know that when you're using AI, you're actually using Larry Chang? Because I front ran your syllabus and you accidentally copied my syllabus because you used AI to do board of director governance. Is this blowing your brain right now? This is why hashtag 23 days of OpenAI at South by Southwest is precursed by December 2023, 12 days of OpenAI, with January's hashtag 21 days of OpenAI. That was done with a fellow LGBTQ TT community member. It started to take off, and then the gay dude who's not retarded was like, oh no, I'm on the radar, and then he quit. So he quit that franchise, 21 days of OpenAI at South by Southwest, and then I solo performed hashtag 23 days of OpenAI at South by Southwest 2024 for South by Southwest. Larry, what happened in 2025? That would be hashtag 22 days of OpenAI at South by Southwest. Go ahead and look at the chart. I did not stutter. This is the future for you. It's 2 interns and a Larry Chang. Because what is your AI token problem? It can be solved using Derek Shitzu's, Cannon Weaver's token arbitrage. Token 2049. Enjoy October in Singapore as you self-fund Singapore throughput lines of code per day. 2023 and a movie. Something Ventured. Is this back to Arthur C. Rock? A little bit. Are you getting confused? You should probably use AI to tap into my brain. Stanford Corp Gov, Roelof Botha, retiring in July. I am now IC-less, which is Roelof Botha. He's my solo LinkedIn contact. Bubble of bubbles. Me and Roelof aren't going to scream at you that there's a bubble, but we know that AI is here to stay, and it's going to get kind of volatile. Was that helpful? Agent to agent. That is me and you. Throughput lines of code per day. Ditto, hire my CRO agent. That is Larry Chang. This was Open Source Comedy. Did you get some value out of it?